So, Helene, it's Morgan. I mean, what does this do? We're sort of talking about the near term. What does it do to, I guess, the medium and long term for these airlines when business travel and the recovery there and then international travel are sort of, or have been, I guess I should say, kind of the big key questions for investors?
Yeah. Hi, Morgan. Thanks again. So yeah, I think those are really great questions. I think we were certainly expecting, and still are, that after Labor Day and people go back to work and school, well, people go back to the office, that companies will figure out how to get their people back, and they will figure out how to get guests in, and that business travel will resume. I guess we think the recovery is going to be somewhat lumpy, maybe nonlinear, and that ending the year with business travel down about 50%. So we still think we're going to see a recovery. We just think it's going to be a little elongated, so that 2022 is better. Now, for international, so that's really bizarre to me, because some markets internationally, no problem. We were traveling internationally last week. All we had to do was show proof of vaccination, and we were allowed in with no quarantine, no tests, nothing. We had to test to come back to the U.S. But I think that's what has people concerned, not so much that the borders aren't open. It's more like, okay, I'm out of the country now. Are things going to change, and am I going to get stuck out of the country? And I think that's the bigger concern. And until you have a consistent policy, and that probably needs to be led by the airlines lobbying organization like A4A and IATA, the International Air Transport Association, I think it's going to be really hard for international to come back consistently before 2022.
Is there a lot of pent-up demand for that, though, on both the leisure side and the business side? I mean, I guess you touched the business side already, but on the leisure side, is it more of a sort of one-off burst as people get to go home and see their families if they live abroad, rather than a kind of sustained build back in vacationing, given that it's still just so much easier to stay in America?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. But I think there's a huge amount of pent-up demand. What surprised me on our trip last week was how many Americans were where we went. And we went to Ecuador. And how many Americans were there? And when we were at the airport in the United States, the airports in the U.S. that we flew out of, and then in Quito, how many Americans were traveling? So, yeah, Wilfred, I think that there are a lot of people who just want to get out. My dentist told me yesterday that she was in Greece last week. I mean, people are out and about, and they are liking it, and they want to do it. And I think it's going to have legs, especially because you've had almost 2 years of people not traveling outside the country and just traveling domestically. And I mean, how many times can you go to a place that you've been how many times before you want to start seeing new things? So I think it's going to be another jailbreak. I called it that for this summer for Americans traveling domestically. I think we're going to see it internationally in the probably late fourth quarter and first quarter, I think, as this pandemic hopefully finally gets behind us. But yeah, that's how I'm thinking about it.
Jailbreak. I like that. Helene Becker, thanks for joining us on a day where the Dow transports, including those airline stocks, are outperforming the broader market.